to in-person sessions. So Mr. Doolett, I will be in touch with you to figure out how to make that happen now that we are fully back in school. The school committee will soon be doing the same. We do not have our two student reps here with us tonight. They are both, one is, I believe, has an exam and the other is working. So I told them that it was okay to miss tonight. So we're going to jump right into community announcements. And as opposed to starting with somebody else, I'm going to start with that today.
Amy, can I just interrupt for 1 second? Do you want to be in gallery view? Because you're in active speaker mode right now.
I can be, however.
Suzanne, if you're the host, you might want to change yours to
Oh, sorry. Forget that I'm the host.
So we have Mr. Ted Delano here tonight for his last meeting with us. I am sad to report. So I wanted to begin the meeting by with community comments and start with mine, which is going to be a thank you to you, Ted. And I just want to read a little something. So to my dear Ted, I will really miss working with you. It was a slow start between the two of us. I remember, I think 7 or 8 years ago, sitting down with you for coffee at Lincoln's Landing. And I left that meeting vowing to never play poker with you because I had no idea what you were thinking, and you play your cards so close to the chest that I just did not know what to do. But I have come to know a very different person than that person that I met. You have become a colleague of mine with a laser focus, first and foremost, on our students, particularly those who are most vulnerable. As you know, one of the ways that you show that is as your liaison to the CPAC and to the METCO programs. I've come to know a career police officer and a member of the ADL who brought a unique viewpoint to our committee. That's going to be really hard to replace. I think compared to the other colleagues who've been with us over the years, yours is a very different viewpoint, and it's been very helpful. You are both methodical, but also heartfelt, which I think is a unique combination of opposites. As a union member, you brought a really important voice to our negotiations table and gave the committee something different to think about. And as a lifelong Swampscotter and a product of our schools, you brought yet another important vantage point. In addition to being a trusted colleague, I have come to call you my friend. You're a highly principled man with a strong sense of personal responsibility and the desire to make our community a better place. You're always a gentleman, and you're always careful with other people's opinions and ideas. I've come to count on you both on the school committee and beyond, and your departure is going to be a big loss for all of us. We're lucky to have almost a decade of your volunteerism. I think you are an amazing example for our community. You leave very big shoes to fill, but I wish you only the best.
Thank you very much.
And on behalf of the school committee, I feel badly that we're doing this on video. We have it looks like just a plain piece of glass, but it actually says, recognizing Ted Delano, Swampscott School Committee from 2012 to 2021 for 3 terms of dedicated service to our students, district, and community. And our gift to you. Let me see if I can show this.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That is awesome.
Yay.
Photographed by an artist who I found. Let's see if I can get it so that it's not like
Yeah, that looks
shiny.
great.
That's
No,
our-
it looks good. You can see it. It's awesome.
It's our pier with a little seashell at the bottom, looking out to sea.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Just a small token for all that you've done for us.
Thank you. It was a very, very tough decision, but I think it was time. I appreciate the comments and the friendships and the professional relationships that I've made over the years have not gone unnoticed. And I really, truly believe, and I still do, in the district. And I will always be around to help. My family obviously was very huge in my support over the years. And as many members, all of us can attest, the first period of time is a little haunting. But as you get into the groove and you put the kids first, you move on. And I really do thank the kind words.
I don't know if anybody else wants to add.
Well, I mean, I will add, Amy, you were very well said in your remarks, but I would just add that Ted, thank you for always being a person that I could come to and talk to, whether I was just bouncing off an idea or whether I had to vent about something, that happens. You were always there. You would always take the call, return the call. You were never hard to get a hold of. You were always someone we could depend on. So I wish you the best, and you will definitely be missed.
Thank you.
I want to completely echo both of what Amy and Karen said. And also, I mean, Ted, we are going to miss you so much because you are the heart here. You are the one that reminds us about residents and about students and our picture taker. And I don't even know who's going to fill those shoes. It's just, I mean, you just reminded us why we're doing this on such a personal level. And I, for one, am really going to miss that and that perspective that you bring. And feel free to email me when I should be acknowledging people and things, because I really need that help. And I so appreciate your heart in all this. And you are leaving a hole in this committee that is going to be really hard for the next person to fill. And I wish you the best too. And I know we'll stay in touch.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, and Ted, this is John. If I can just take a moment as well, and I just actually share something that I shared with you offline, Ted. Even though we've served together less than a year, what I had said to you was that your commitment to the children always came through loud and clear, and everyone does appreciate that. And in going forward, Ted, that's something that as some of the work that we do and that I'm going to be doing, we're going to keep that in mind, and just help the children as best we can going forward. So I would look at that as one of the great legacies you leave here. So thank you again for your service.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
I just want to say, when I think back to prior to coming into this role and meeting Ted on the school committee, I think when I was assistant superintendent, and I think back all those years ago and how far we've come, the thing that strikes me about Ted is not only his, first and foremost, his commitment to the children, but his unwavering support. He is quick to stand behind the administration, the educators, want what's best for us, but he's also not afraid to tell me when he thought things were not, what they should be. So that openness, that directness, that honesty, that support, unwavering support, that, being a cheerleader when I was struggling, and I won't forget that. And you will be sorely, sorely missed on this board. Thank you for your service. And thank you for all the years of support.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. And I wish you quick meetings and good health. And please call.
It's funny. We can only see you. Massaging the S in Swampscott. Oh, there we go. Here,
I gotta come closer.
That's kind of personal right there.
Doyle has to come a little closer.
But again, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it, and I wish you the best. Each and
Don't
every
be a
one of you.
stranger.
All right.
We look forward to seeing your name on the participants list.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Best of luck, Ted.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye now.
Sad. That is hard.
Yeah.
So if anybody else would like to make a community announcement, start with you, Ms. Wright.
I just want to say thank you to Ms. Shea for putting on the guest readers last week. You know, it was really brave of her to invite readers into school the first week school started, and it was a blast. It was so fun to be in the school and to be reading to those littles, or I read to third grade, so they really weren't so little, but it was pretty great. And I've always just thought the teachers have the hardest job, but seeing how they're teaching with the masks and with the barriers on the kids' desks and having to constantly spin around and talk to the kids on the Zoom too and everything. It was just like, it was a lot. I mean, in Clark too, the windows are open, there's noise from the street, there's noise from the ventilators in the classroom. It was a lot. So kudos to our teachers. I mean, they're doing an awesome job, but it was really fun to read. And thanks, Ms. Shea, for doing that. It's just fun.
Ms. Marshall?
Thanks. I also wanted to give a shout out. I have been working a couple of weeks now at Hadley doing some lunch monitoring. And I just need to, acknowledge everybody that is working so hard, from the principals, the teachers, the admins, and I mean, last but not least, the custodians, who are just working so hard to keep this system going cleanly and safely and in a way that, feels normal-ish, but just being in there, again, kind of like what Suzanne's saying, and being with the kids and watching them. They're just so resilient, so happy. I keep asking every class, are you happy to be back in school? And, like 99.9% they're like, yay, we are. And it's just great, but you can see the work that is going into making it work, right? Trying to schedule it this way, getting the volunteers in and moving the kids around the building in ways that they're not used to. And it's a lot. And so I just want to make sure that people understand that and give credit where it's due. That's it.
Mr. Jantis?
Thanks, Amy. Just very quickly, I know the superintendent has this in her report, but as an item, but again, I just wanted to thank the superintendent, you, Amy, and all the others who helped make the site visit earlier this week possible to the schools. It was great to see everyone in person. It was really great to see the kids back in. It was really great to talk to the teachers and staff about what their thoughts were about everything. So it was very illuminating. So thank you again.
Awesome. And I've done mine. So with that, we'll go right into you, Superintendent, and your report.
Sure. Could I be made a co-host so I can share my screen? Thank you.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Let me just enlarge this a little. Is that large enough? Is that large enough, everyone?
That looks good to me.
Okay. So yes, my first item on my superintendent's report is about the full in-person reopening. We welcomed back our elementary students full in person on April 5th, and our middle school was back 5 days a week, but just half days. On April 12th, middle school went to full days, and I'm sorry, April 5th, high school came in as well. So we were really happy about having all of our kids in person. I actually tweeted today because, with all sincerity, I had my window cracked in my office and the students were going outside for mask breaks. And the happy noise that I heard through their masks, of the chatter, of the laughter, really, it sounds corny, but it really made my heart sing. I realized I missed them, but not as much as when I heard them today. It just was, it was really great. It's really great to have them back. There was a lot of participation from the local, the building PCOs, PTOs, PTAs, in terms of the return to school and the celebrations that were happening at each school. A shout out to Fairy Tale Incorporated for their balloon designs, and for the signs, and for the music and the fog machines that were going on and the opening day cookout from food services at the high school. So a lot of great celebration, a lot of great energy. It's different. It is definitely a new normal, but we are getting along. And I want to echo as well, Mr. Giantis and Mrs. O'Connor, you saw it when you went out there. This was not easy to do, you know, despite the mitigation of the ventilation systems that we had to do at the elementary levels. You're now talking about remaining socially distanced while you're planning lunches. You know, we were talking that I believe at Hadley, Miss Bebchek said she used to be able to do the whole school of lunches between 12 and 12:40. Now they're starting 10:45 going to 1:30. And so, you know, I used to joke when my daughter went to school in Peabody, her lunch was at 10:45 pre-pandemic. And I'm like, well, you're having breakfast. But, you know, the principals worked through it. They made afternoon snacks so that the kids aren't, you know, hungry. But it was a challenge. I called it logistical gymnastics, just trying to figure it out and then trying to figure out coverage. And I'm happy to report as of tonight that this morning I got news that all of the shifts at all of the elementary schools for lunch and recess monitors are covered. So everybody has their needs. I want to thank the volunteers. I want to thank the people that are having paid positions. But every time slot at each of the elementary schools is covered. And I'm forever grateful because we saw the other day, it wouldn't be able to happen without them. There's just not enough bodies. I want to echo what Suzanne said about the Read Across America. So as much as our reopening has gone smoothly, and this week smoother than last week for our littlest learners, we're still learning things. And I couldn't wait to get into the classroom in Mrs. Kelty's second grade over at Clark to read my stories. And for me, it was a reality check that teaching isn't what it used to be, because I was asked to sit at the front of the room so that I remained at least 6 feet distance between myself and the children. And I was using a hover cam to display my story on the board. And right next to me was the air purifier. So I had a mask on. I'm at the front of the room. I'm trying to project my voice through the mask to all the students throughout the classroom at the back of the room over their cough shields. And then I'm asking questions to engage them. And I thought, oh, let's do a picture walk and let's make some predictions. But I couldn't hear their answers because they have masks on. They have the cough shields. So I went from asking a question to walking the room as quickly as I could to catch their answers, to going back to reading the stories. And I looked at Mrs. Kelty and said, you know, quick half hour and my throat is sore. And so I will say my team, we immediately came back and I said, you guys need microphones. So of course, Ms. Mackie Knowles immediately purchased some out of pocket to test. And we've got another name of another one because we have to make sure that the microphones match up with our technology. And we have some teachers out in the field testing them right now. But if I had to do that all day long, I can't even imagine. And then, you know, they're trying to sneak a sip of water in between. So until you get in it, you don't realize all of the challenges that are still occurring. We're learning every single day. We're trying to improve. I also tweeted a photo today, a shout out to Miss O'Brien over at Hadley. She purchased a standing rolling desk and she keeps remote students on Zoom there. And for different periods of the day, she buddies them up with a student in the classroom. So it's not the teacher teaching the child on Zoom. The child is partnered with students, which is engaging those remote learners and making them feel part of the class. So I thought that was an outstanding idea. And so they are really coming up with some creative solutions. And I do want to thank Amy for coordinating the visits to Clark, Hadley, and the middle school with a member of the finance committee. A shout out to Joan Hilario and a member of the select board, David Grisham, for coming with us, and Mr. Giantis and Amy coming with us, and really seeing, you know, and it happened to be a rainy day, so the lunches weren't outside. So you had more kids in the halls than they expect to have in the halls. We had kids eating inside. We went into the first day of lunches here at the middle school. Half the cohort is down in the cafeteria. The other half of the cohort is spread out in the gym with these portable seats. It was a Herculean effort, and I'm proud to say we're where we're at, but every day we learn something new. So Amy?
Before you went on much further, because I'm not sure I have even spoken with Ms. Wright and Ms. Marshall about this. I just wanted to give a little bit of background about why that tour happened. Like Ms. Marshall, I have been volunteering at the Hadley after speaking with Ms. Bebchik last week and learning that they had way too many holes in their list of volunteers who could help make lunches happen. I went in there. Always careful, always careful to tread lightly as a school committee member and not have teachers and other employees there feel like a school committee member is watching them. But Ms. Bebchik assured me that it was okay. I was blown away by the logistics of what it took to make what is now normal happen. And I know, Dr. Bacon, that this has been a huge effort of yours as well. I cannot thank you enough. As a former corporate traffic manager, I have a fine appreciation for the steps to get projects done. And even my traffic instincts were on overload based on all that was happening in that one particular school. So I asked the superintendent if we could take a look at another elementary school as well as the middle school, because I wanted to kind of get a sense of what, if anything, was a function of the fact that we have a 100-year-old building with kids who are eating in the basement, to, what is just a function of the fact that it's COVID, and what does education look like with that now? So I want to thank you and your team, because I was, it really just didn't cease to amaze me what was taking place at the three schools we looked at, Clark, Hadley, and the middle school, and all of the creative solutions and the warts that your team wasn't afraid to expose, so that we can better help them with what they're doing. So this whole year has been a Herculean effort. But this, and I want to say, Ms. Bebchik, on my first day of volunteering there, she said to me, she looked glassy-eyed and said how awful things were going. And but she said, but you know what? I know that tomorrow is going to be better. And I know that the day after that's going to be better. And when I came back for my second week there, she said, and things have gotten better. And I'll tell you, they really were. So I can't give enough kudos to your entire team and all the people who are running those buildings and those teachers for all of the creative things that they're doing to slog through this. I do want to add, publicly, that like the teacher who purchased that desk, and I saw a kindergarten class teacher who had made some, she and her family had made some purchases, and I just want to encourage them to reach out and submit expenses, that they don't have to carry that burden, and that there is money within our district to help support that. So
we had that discussion at leadership team today. What really is a necessity? So we want to make sure that we have it across the board. For example, those bumpy cushions, what a great idea. But we're talking about, kindergarten children coming in, never having been in our schools and sitting at desks. So every kindergartner in the district could benefit from those. So that's something, a purchase that we think we could make district-wide. So we did have a good discussion about that today.
Great. So that's all I have to say. I just wanted to add that, especially for Karen and Suzanne, who are probably thinking, hey, how come I didn't get an invite? We also just wanted to limit it so that there weren't too many people during COVID traipsing around these schools.
But we also had Amanda Mulcahy, our occupational health nurse, Max Casper came, Garrett Baker came. We were looking at facilities. So it was an all-encompassing tour of these buildings, and we were trying to limit the chaos in the hallways. But the next few items are very exciting. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Bacon to speak about the Innovative Pathways designation that we have received. It's really exciting news and ties into my next item. But Dr. Bacon.
Thanks, Superintendent. So a couple weeks ago, we got official notification from the state, and they did a press release to acknowledge that we had earned our designation as an Innovation Pathways School for advanced manufacturing. I think we were one of, it's somewhere in that, I think the press release that you're scrolling through,
Sorry,
Superintendent.
18 high schools.
You know, there were, right, 18 high schools, and I think the total now is like 40 or 50 something statewide. So it's quite an honor and an achievement for our high school. So a whole bunch of people worked on this proposal since last summer in various phases, and we had a final interview in March, the end of March, and then we received our designation a couple weeks ago. So this will mean, and I think the Principal Kohut spoke about it when he introduced the program of studies a few weeks ago. This will mean that we have in-house some new courses starting in the 9th grade for students who are interested in pursuing careers in advanced manufacturing or engineering. We'll have a whole series of new courses in the high school that they can take throughout their 4 years. We have partnerships with some manufacturers in the region. Right now, we have partnerships with MM Newman and who's the other one?
Lynn Manufacturing.
Lynn Manufacturing, all set. And our students, and we're continuing to develop partnerships with some other manufacturers. And in their senior year, these students will be spending up to 100, at least 100 hours in a placement in a local manufacturer to really sort of apply all the skills that they've been learning throughout their 4 years of coursework with us. And part of the partnership also includes courses for them to take at North Shore Community College in their advanced manufacturing and pre-engineering programs. So it's a really incredible opportunity for our students to do a different kind of learning as part of their high school experience. So we're very excited to be starting that in the fall.
Oops. That ties in nicely to, I can bring it up, my next item. To give a little history for Mr. Giantis and anyone else listening who's new, many years ago, during terrible budget seasons, the tech ed skill courses at the high school were removed. One of the things that we've struggled with here in our district is a cohort of children or students at the high school who may not be doing post-secondary or going post-secondary plans in college. That's not realistic to think that every one of our students is on a college track. I myself am a parent of a child who went to a technical school. For her, that was the right thing. And for years, we've talked about how do we bring shop classes back to the high school? How do we maybe have a culinary course that's going to be the hook to get a group of students into school in order to get through their biology and English classes when they know they have something to look forward to? Well, tonight I'm very happy to announce that we have signed an MOU with Essex North Shore Agricultural and Technical High School, and we are partnering with them as one of a few schools on the North Shore who next year to our rising juniors will be offering this program. What this program will allow is for our students to leave our high school Monday through Friday by 11 o'clock. They will be bused to North Shore Tech, and they will be dismissed from and bused back to Swampscott from that high school at 2:30. They remain our students. We are not paying for the busing because this is all part of an after dark program with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And this is through a grant. And they are not only going to support our advanced manufacturing as an area, but also our students would be able to select from auto collision repair, automotive technology, construction, design and media communications, electrical and plumbing. So these are career and technical programs that our students would have access to. Again, it is for rising juniors. If the rising juniors enter this program, they will also continue for their senior year, the same model. And we have been connected with a recruitment liaison from the school who will be helping the high school determine which students would be part of this program. But I couldn't be happier because when I came into this role, we've talked for years and years about this missing piece for a cohort of our students. And now we're at the place that we have something to offer, and I couldn't be prouder.
That's amazing.
Amy?
No, I see Suzanne with her hand
Oh,
raised.
sorry.
Or Suzanne.
No, I'm just gonna say, I mean, this is amazing and it's about time. I mean, it's so great that the state has this program now that people are starting to recognize the need for this in all sorts of districts, not just a few. So this is awesome that we have this opportunity. And I mean, we just need to be aware of our policies that need to change and work on this sooner than later, right? So we can get some new graduation requirements and
Yes.
some things like that to make sure that everything goes smoothly for these kids, that they're still, you know.
Well, there's a couple of things. You're absolutely right. We do have to, we have talked about bringing the policy of graduation requirements back to the school committee for a look over, but also keep in mind that the middle school and high school scheduling project is going on where we are analyzing and trying to move forward with more aligned schedules. And so this is a perfect opportunity, and speaking to Mr. Cohut, that, you know, maybe the current schedule wouldn't work for something like this, but we have an opportunity to change that. I have reached out to the districts that are already doing this. Only one responded. I would like to know what their high school schedule is to make this program work within their high schools. And so I will pursue the other three again to see if I can get a copy of their schedules. But basically, It's a 7-period stagnant schedule in order to have these kids do their core subjects in the morning, early in the morning, and then move on to this without missing anything. So we're super excited. Certainly there's a lot of information still to be learned. And but the MOU is signed and we're very excited by it.
So for this program and for the innovative pathways, like kids are going to start registering for classes soon, I imagine. Are we trying to recruit some kids for these programs? Like, I mean,
I can speak to the innovation pathways. The 8th graders have had a presentation done by Miss Otto Barnum, and it's on their list of electives. So that's happening.
And we have a flyer ready to go for the this Essex Tech program.
this sounds like the kids, it's a little bit of combination of teachers or staff picking these kids in addition to these kids asking for it. Kind of, is that?
And for the Essex Tech?
Yeah.
No, there's a flyer that should probably be going out right after April vacation. Mr. Cohut is aware that we have this flyer. Like I said, we have a liaison who's going to guide us through the recruitment process. So, you know, it could be that students pick their schedule, this opportunity comes along and they want to change it. So the timing may be off a little, but we're all over it right now. Once we have the signed MOU, we're moving forward with it.
Superintendent, how many seats do you think there are going to be?
They recommended 8 to 11, so we're targeting 11.
So really no fundamental change on our side in terms of programming and okay.
No. Okay. Next up is the State of the Student Services presentation with Miss Raymond, our Assistant Superintendent of Student Services. Ms. Raymond, would you prefer to have co-host privileges and share?
I gave her co-host.
Oh,
I
great.
did.
Okay.
Oh, perfect. All right. So, all right, let me see if I can pull it up. Hang on. All right. How's that look?
Great.
All right. Thank you for having me tonight. It's kind of the state of student services. So a little bit of a look back and a look forward and kind of what's happening this year. So first, these two hold true for sure. Two fundamental requirements, the free and appropriate public education and LRE. I just want to remind you that too, of the least restrictive environment. But right now, in the last 2 years, since March 13th, we've had to add in, while maintaining the health and safety of students and staff. So those are kind of the principles that we're following. I want to highlight our team because I will say we kind of went first, right? Especially this team. So LaToya has been working tirelessly with our students from Boston. And boy, have the pandemic, I think, has challenged our families in Boston even more so than Swampscott, as well as the tragedies of George Floyd. And even most recently, again, there's another death of a black person. And so I feel like she has just been that bridge to help support those students, including, I know even last year she was down, delivering cupcakes to the kids, bringing things, hand delivering Chromebooks, like really trying to get them, really trying to support our team. So I just want to shout out to her. And actually right now she's at the PCO meeting, again, with families too. Erin Wilson had a pandemic baby and now she is back. She had a baby right in the fall, but she is back supporting the high school. Christine DeJalonis is at the middle school. She's our team chair. Rena Mello has the Herculean effort of supporting our 3 elementary schools, which is really challenging, working with 3 different buildings and coordinating district programming. She works tirelessly. She's one of the last people you will see here often. Alyssa Brothers, I want a huge shout out to her, as I will say the preschool protocols for the startup and for lunch and for snack are what you see are used in all of our schools. That the guidelines that were wrote in this program are what got utilized because we started first. So I really want to give her a shout out that she really looked at the logistics and helped guide our principals, the 5 principals, about what framework could I use. Mona is still here. She's been doing Zoom meetings, doing the out of district team meetings. Liz Driscoll is our district BCBA, and on top of that, she also helped out chairing meetings this year. It was kind of an all hands on deck. So everybody realized, like, whatever you're doing, you're going to be probably doing more. Nell Donato is our ELL coordinator. She's also been navigating, working with families because we had a significant group of families that were remote, and how do we continue to service them? Our administrative assistants, Stacy Bonsang and Jan Kauschman. Lead nurse, Emily Silly. Boy, our nurses have worked really hard this year, along with Amanda Mulcahy. It was a huge addition to help get all our COVID protocols down. Our head of guidance, Emily Barnum-Zoto, trying to last year and this year, navigate these, the kids post secondary plans. And we have an addition this year, a special education literacy specialist is Wendy Chalik. She is a master of all things with dyslexia, and has really been an added bonus to us for our language-based programs, resource programs, and reading programs. So I just want this team and everybody who comes under it, all of our teachers and all of our ESPs and all of our tutors, school psychologists, speech pathologists, OT, PT, they have worked tirelessly this year. So I wanted to highlight them. Just for the committee to know, what are the essential questions that I ask, especially our team chairs, and to know, you have to ask, what is best for the student? What is the student's entitlement? And what is the best allocation of the district's resources? I think it's good for the committee to know that our team chairs actually in a IEP meeting can allocate the resources of the district, of anybody. So they're kind of the boss at that meeting.
And these are the questions that they need to ask. I didn't make up these questions. I will say I was really fortunate to be part of a mentoring team and development group that my mentor actually helped me, and these were the questions, and I always found them to be just great guiding principles to always come back to when you don't know what do we do here? What is the problem? And these questions really help guide us always to get to the right answer. So if you look at this, what students, what is the percentage of students with disabilities? And this is just some data I just wanted to take a look at. This is from the state. And the reason I bring this up, we're gonna always look at this and make sure, we're not over identifying or under identifying students with disabilities. And we're kind of right there with the state, and that's good. We're not we're not at 20%. Some towns are. That probably means you're doing an over identification of students with disabilities, and we're not under. So I think we're right where we should be. How many students are English language learners? Like, that's growing, as you can see. We've had even historical data, it was even previous this lower, but you can see that we're going, but we're still less than the state, but we are now at 5.6%. Our students who are socioeconomically disadvantaged, you can see that going up. I expect this year to be even higher, right? So this is, 1 year behind. Still lower than the state, but you can see this number is rising. It does drive the funding on some of our title grants as well. So more resources come with that, but it's good for the committee to know that the demographic nature of our town is shifting. Just wanted to share this. These are great reports that we're able to get from DESE. And I wanted to share this. This is something that we look at, this first part, because we want to make sure we're not over identifying any one group in terms of disabilities. And right now, and we did not, the state looks at this data closely to make sure we're not disproportionately identifying one group. I have looked at we are at 17% of our white students are identified with disability and 20% of our African-American. We are a little bit over, but it is something that we're always looking at. So I just wanted the committee to know that we do look at that. The bottom, I just think this is interesting data to kind of look at how many kids fall in each year with having disabilities. And you can see it kind of bumps up, right? This is where we would start picking up students who have specific learning disabilities right around, second, third, fourth grade. I think the nice thing is to see some things come down too, right? That kids who may have come off an IEP now at the end. And so I just think that's good data for you guys to look at. But these are data that we can pull off from the DESE website. So we do look at, that's the resource allocation and district reports. So we do look at that information. All right, financial implications, what are the driving factors? Well, out of district tuition and transportation, our teachers, how many teachers do we have? How many support staff do we need? Clinical services was very high this year. We had to actually support some of our services through contracting. One was testing. We were behind in testing, so we did have to do contracting for that, and also some therapies. We actually, instead of hiring a teacher or a therapist, we actually had to do contracting. And that was just simply due to staffing shortages. Testing, so we do spend money on the protocols when new testing comes out. One thing we're investing in next year, which I'm excited about, through a grant we received through special education, $16,000 that we purchased 40 iPads, and we're going to be purchasing next year. We're going to be purchasing the digital assessment library through Pearson, so that the testing goes immediately to the iPad, and each evaluator, so a school psychologist, will have 2 iPads, one for themselves and one for the student that they're evaluating. It automatically, with some data that's inputted, will calculate standard scores, percentiles. It'll be a much more efficient way for us to get through the majority of our testing. Some tests we're still going to have to purchase outside, but the majority of the tests that we do utilize will now be on these iPads. Our staff are incredibly excited about this. I am also excited about it because it's a fee that we pay per year. It's going to be about $6,000 a year for student. We have 400 students on an IEP, but every time a testing company like the WISC-4, which is the intellectual testing that we do, comes out with the WISC-5, it's already baked into that 6,000. We automatically get the new tests, we get all the materials, we get all the protocols, and they come. So we don't have to constantly be updating or using out-of-date testing. So I'm really excited for that. That's going to be rolling out next year. And translations, we really make sure that all, any of our families, we translate all of our, any of our data or any of our reports. We do use Citygate to help translate, as well as get interpreters for meetings. So you can see here's some data, historical data on where are our students, and are they in public collaboratives, private, residential. Projections for FY22. It's a little bit down at the moment, a little more in public. That's increased a little bit in the private, and a little bit down on residential. That's where it holds right now. In terms of cost, even though the number's gone down, it's probably going to stay about the same as this year, which is good. I think we're going to be roughly about the same in terms of cost, which is going to be about anywhere between $3.3 and $3.5 million. So it's been fairly stable. That can change at any given time, but that's where we are now. We are always looking at it. And if you can see, we always hover a little below or a little above 30. That stayed very stable. And that just shows that we really have good, strong in-district programs. So that's a good thing. Cost of transportation this year is very unpredictable because we have had, remote students. We've had contracts with NRT where we are billed the full cost for an actual live transportation, but we are still billed a reduced cost when we're not transporting or it's remote. But that's really to kind of maintain the stabilization of our transportation. I think we are really fortunate. We have not had many issues with the support of our families, and also with NRT, that we have been able to do get students where they need to be. And that is really important, because I know other districts are really struggling with that because there's a shortage of drivers. And when you kind of go from 0 to, everybody's back, how do you get them there? But we've really been able to do that this year. But these are the drivers: out of district, in district special education, general education, transportation for students who are experiencing homelessness, and foster care. Those are the students that we transport. I've not had trouble at this moment, though, being able to get transportation. I think that's pretty unique to us, probably because we're small, but we've maintained that relationship with NRT, and that's a good thing. Some of funding sources, we have circuit breaker, which is any amount of money over, there's a $47,000 threshold to an out of district placement, and a roughly 7 to 75%. And it ranges every year. You don't know what it's going to be until they let us know. That money's funded back to us, and it's after the fact, right? So it comes after we've already spent it. We have the IDEA grant, which is, we use it currently for out of district tuition. We have grant 262, which is for the preschool. Grant 298 is the one I just spoke about. That was to get the 40 iPads. So, we're always, whenever grant 298 comes and goes, whenever we get it, we try to use it for things that will outlast the grant, right? I'm going to have that iPad, even though the money went away, right? That's a good thing. Professional development's another time, another way we might use that grant. And it's very interesting with the state. You never know when it's coming, right? It just all of a sudden pops up and I get an email. You have 1 month to figure out how to spend $16,000. We always figure out a way, but it is interesting there is some unpredictability about how, when we get these funds we didn't know about. Like, I had no idea that was coming and it came. Our ESSER grants, obviously, I know Jean's been working hard writing all those grants, but PPE, technology, equipment, compensatory services, we've also used those for. That money has been very helpful for what we're doing. I just wanted to go back. This was a slide that I had when, last year when I did this in April, and boy, were we in a different world at that point. But I just wanted to highlight, face-to-face educational instruction. We met that. We did it starting September 16th. Assess our students. We are almost 100% whole in terms of completing all of our initial evaluations and reevaluations. We will be whole by June. That was a feat to accomplish. We did no assessments from March until June, and we do, we're doing them every day. So we had to become whole, and we did. Whole team meetings and determine, do we have compensatory services? That's ongoing. Every time we meet with a family and assess a student, we review, is there regression? Do we, should we do additional services? That continues. And then the evaluations, prioritizing our initial evals, re-evals, we met that with our team, and it was hard work, and they did it. These are some challenges. I know we talked about this before, but there's been a rise in emergency related visits for a really younger population, right? Ages 5 to 11, regarding behavioral and anxiety and psychiatric issues. So that's of high concern. Obviously, the missed learning opportunities, increased gaps. I think we'll have some good data from MCAS that will be really helpful. I know Dr. Bacon had, especially at the elementary level, looking using AIMSweb and iReady to really look at where students are, and then targeting the intervention. I'm looking to move that to the middle school for next year too, that we're going to be using those as well, so we can really remedy those gaps. It's been incredibly challenging to operate dual platforms of remote and in-person. I think we're meeting the challenge. I thought maybe that challenge would end June 30th. It didn't. This summer we are, if families do want to continue to be remote, we have to continue to provide both platforms. I will say the majority of our students are in person, but that's continuing. Operating the logistics, which you guys got to see in person at the elementary school, boy, that was a challenge, right? Looking at not having large spaces to have socially distanced lunches is what caused the problem at the elementaries in terms of not having the staff, right? We just couldn't do it because now they're all in their room and they have to be supervised. So that just has been an incredible challenge. And staffing shortages. We have open positions that we just can't fill. Really, really difficult this year. And I will say I'm so grateful to our teams to helping cover maternity leaves, or when people are out, everybody has really stepped up to help each other. I wanted to talk about, obviously, not only have we had the pandemic, but we've had, a real goal for having professional development in anti-racism. And we have two things going on right now. One, I know Pam's talked, or the superintendent's talked about the RISE equity audit, where our leadership team members are participating in this process. And it's really taking a look at kind of coming up with those guiding questions that I started earlier with special education, like the lens in which all decisions are made. What are these essential questions? And then what is our why? Like why, really delving deeper into what, why is this important to us? And that why is what drives our decision making. The inner standings is actually more of a personal journey where we have members of our leadership team and teachers, and that's starting this Friday, where they're going to really work with us about prejudice and bias and really understanding how our own thoughts and processes and reactions impact our actions. So that's going to be a more personal journey, but it'll be very helpful to get to the next question of the why, right? If we're going through it, it's really something you have to do on both levels. We are participating both. They both were opportunities from MECO, and I will say Millie has just been so active with the districts in her outreach to us and trying to support the districts. Interestingly, this week I was just at a DESE meeting, and there's, I think, many additional districts who want to be part of the MECO program, which is a good thing. But one of the issues that got brought up is that the money didn't increase, right? And then how is that going to work? I think it's a great thing that there's more towns now that see this as such a positive and they want to be involved. And so hopefully the state will see that and maybe just expand the program. Anyway, that was pretty exciting. positives, you know, what works, what are we going to keep? I think the meetings on Zoom have really improved attendance and have assisted families, right? They don't have to commute, you can go to work and then only have to take an hour break, right, for your IP meeting, not come back into, you know, come back to Swampscott and then go back to work. So I think families have appreciated that. Home services, I think it was great for some of our families to really get a lens into what we do. And when they were home, they saw that. And I think there was a nice increased communication between our staff and our families. So I really think that bridge actually got stronger. Live Zooming for students with health issues, right? This has happened before, not to the extent of numbers of kids that are home, but we certainly have had kids who could not come to school. And I think now we have a new way that we can engage with them. So I'm excited about that piece. I think professional development, clearly, there's some ease to that. Staff meetings, we can have more meetings. Meetings with DESE, they've been really great about being much more proactive. I have one every 2 weeks. I feel like we're more informed. And I think that Dr. Bacon, I'll give her, the most exciting one for me was the iReady and AimsWeb rollout, really getting a common assessment that's not just standardized, that we can really look at how is the student doing in terms of where they are in the curriculum, in terms of the grade level standards. That's been a game changer for us. And I am so appreciative of that. It really helps us target what we need to do. In the midst of the pandemic, we were up for our tiered focus monitoring, which used to be called the compliance review. So it used to be every 6 years, you had a full compliance review and then the mid-cycle review. And it has now shifted in a good way, I want to say, because it has been shifted to be a much more collaborative process rather than a test and you don't know what they're looking for, right? That's kind of how it was before. And it really was not that way. So we had our self-assessment and it was in the spring of when we were all home. What that requires is I have to upload a lot of paperwork and procedures and protocols, and I have to review the records. And if you remember, everybody was home. So usually I have a team who does that, but it wasn't a team this year, it was me. So I was in and I was doing it and my 14 chairs were on the phone and I'm like calling them because, you know, what the record is the story of the student. And the only person who knows the story of the student usually is my team chair, right? So they helped me from home, but these are the things that the state looked at. Student identification, IEP development, programming, support services, equal opportunity. These are the standards that they look at. Here's the Group B standards. There's two different sets. We were under Group A this time. So the way they've changed it is said instead of a giant one and then a little one, it's now kind of split in half. So we just went through Group A, universal standards. These are Group B. These will happen in 3 years. One thing I'm going to point out to you is facilities. That is on here. They are going to come in and look at our elementary schools and we are going to get flagged. I can already tell you because we've got 2 schools that are not accessible and Clark is, but not fully. So this will be a finding in the next round. I am so hopeful that we have a new school being built when they come around next time. So I can say that Swampscott has addressed this issue and has a corrective action in place, which is a new school, but this will be a finding. I'm pleased to report that the district was in full compliance with every one of our regulatory requirements, and there was no corrective action. That's huge. The last time we did not have this. We actually did have one partial finding, so we had no findings this time.
And can I just shout out, because this is really a result of Ms. Raymond's leadership and her dedication to the students of Swampscott. And I want to reiterate how impressive it is not to have any findings. This is quite an accomplishment. So thanks to you, Martha, and your team. It's yeoman's work and you did a great job.
It's exciting too, because you get rated, right? So if you're rated in the top tier 1 or 2, you actually can be on a self-improvement plan, almost similar to the teacher's evaluation, right? And so what we have to do is kind of do fun things, like how do we want to grow? We have to still support it to the state. But yes, this is a whole team effort that happened here. That tells you we are following all the many, and I will go show you, we are I'll show you the regulations. They'll come through and just show you how many there are. This is the other thing. We get indicators too. We have to actually send in student data. All of these were compliant. Our initial evaluation, early child transition, secondary tuition, all compliant. And you have to be 100% to be compliant. You can't have any one-offs. These are all the standards. So every standard we were considered compliant. So let me wait. So anyway, I just wanted to say thank you to our team chairs who worked tirelessly to make this happen. And also the unique circumstances that this occurred under. It's usually a team on-site effort, and it was a remote effort. And if you think about it, we went paperless from March 13th until June. That doesn't mean the file went paperless. Every single action that we did during that time frame had to get in the file, and we got it done. And so that is a feat, I have to say. So, and we're still working on it. But it was incredibly hard to do. And that's every email, every remote learning plan, every change, every time the schedule changes at the middle school, and every IEP is written to the minute. Every time something changes, we have to resend something out to document your 52-minute block is now 48-minute blocks. So that's all the things that we have to document. So anyway, I'm very excited about that. I'm ending with this last slide, because this is the slide they brought up in our tiered focusing monitoring review, and the superintendent goes to this and our team does. And this was the first slide they brought up and said, you have a problem. And I just want to bring this up.
Well, can I take it from here, Ms.?
Yes.
It struck me in that meeting that they did highlight this information and seemed a bit shocked by it, by the discrepancies among the building. And so my team and I have been thinking about, is there a way, as we hopefully move toward twin schools and a new school building project, that we start to level that out? So the last item on my superintendent's report is talking about kindergarten registration and placement. And one of the things that we are looking to do, and I would just want to put out there, that your school assignment, if you have an incoming kindergartner, might look different. Obviously, we'll stay within the radius so that busing isn't required, but we're going to try to start to balance these numbers as a result of the state really calling this out to us. It was extreme from what they see all across the Commonwealth. And so we have to start doing something about it now. So, we're not going to turn kindergarten placements topsy-turvy, but we are going to take into consideration the feedback from the state when we're placing students in schools across town. And that was the conclusion of Ms. Raymond's report and my report.
Here's mine. Anybody have questions?
Martha, can I ask you to talk a little bit about the homelessness and foster care and what that looks like in this district? Not only numbers, but like, what does it really mean? Because I know that, for example, that homelessness is not equal to, living in a tent.
Sure. So we don't have a huge number. But I will say often what happens, it may be a family might be in a shelter, a family might move into a hotel, like could it be loss of their home or something's happened. The idea though is educational stability, both for foster care and for any student experiencing homeless. The goal is to keep them in school, right? We are the stable place. And so really it's about maintaining that consistency when everything else around them is changing and feeling uncertain. This is the stability and this is the place that you come to. So it's really about that transportation piece and any other support that we can give the child here. So it's really just making sure that we're doing that piece. We don't have a huge number of students experiencing homelessness. In comparison to some of our other districts, like for instance, like Danvers, right? And the reason is they have a lot of hotels and motels on that area, right? And you have a choice. If you're homeless, you can choose to stay in your home district, or you could also enroll in the district now where you're living. In Swampscott, we rarely had that happen. The kids stay in Swampscott and we do transportation. We have seen a little bit of an increase in our families who have foster care students. And we just make sure they're enrolled quickly, and we're working on making sure they're supported, working with DCF. It just brings in another group to the team. So I wouldn't say it's a huge number, but we're in strong contact with DCF.
So in terms of foster care and how numbers work, if I remember right, if we have a student who leaves our district and goes into foster care, where they go, we're responsible for.
So homelessness, you share the transportation burden, cost. So if I'm if a family is in, say, Salem, but they're coming back to Swampscott and Salem would then split the cost. Foster care, yes, they say the home district, the last district enrolled remains responsible, and you're responsible for all of it. But mainly the idea of it is that what's in the best interest of the child. That's really what the state cares about, and it's the stability piece. The only time it comes into a factor where it may not be in the best interest of a student to stay it is if the distance is just so prohibitive to the transportation. And that has happened, not a lot, but occasionally, you might have a student who's now placed in an hour and a half away. And at that point, like, the transportation is just so long that we might make a different decision, but it's a team decision with the families and DCF. So.
And importantly, it's not zero, that this is something that we do see in our district.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes.
John, I see your hand raised.
Thanks, Amy. And Ms. Raymond, just a couple of questions. This is more me just trying to better understand this tiered focus monitoring process.
Sure.
So you said we had no findings, which is good. If we did have a finding, is it a requirement that we have to fix whatever the finding is, or is it a recommendation? I guess I'm just trying to get a sense of how serious it is if there's a finding.
No, you have to do a corrective action. You have to fix it. And it's really pretty lengthy what you would be required to do. Like, we would have to show proof that we fixed it. I would have to show meetings, trainings, protocols, procedures, send IEPs. It's a very lengthy process. So districts don't want to have a finding because it is a process, and you are required to fix it. There's also the problem resolution system, which that's another avenue for, there's many avenues for families to look at the regulatory. This is the one that the state looks at us, right? Say, hey, are you doing your job? And it's important that we are, and we are in this case, which is great. Families also can look at the problem resolution system. So they might, if someone thinks we're not, they'll call them and say, I don't think the district is doing this right. And the same thing happens. We have to actually then report back data, and it's a lengthy process and a narrative that's written to show, no, we are actually in compliance with these regulations that we're required to do. So yes, it's a requirement.
All right. And one of the slides mentioned supplying information on like I don't have the slide in front of me. It was like IEPs and some of the other programs. Is that, I'm just curious, is that aggregated data, or is specific student, like, here's the file of, a bunch of students that we're sending that to the state, or is it kind of anonymized? I'm just curious on that piece.
So data that goes to the state is through a security portal with a SACID number that goes in. So it is protected, but the state does have it. When they come out and they review the files, they review the file. They see the student record. So that's not redacted. They see it.
They're randomly selected, correct?
Right. Yes. Yeah, there can be randomly selected. Sometimes they might randomly select it. They may say, oftentimes what they say is, bring me 3 files that are out of district. Bring me 3 files that the student has a specific learning disability. They're looking at not that individual child. They're making sure there's no themes or threads that they could pull out of non-compliance.
Right. Yep, I totally understand that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Anybody else with questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Martha.
And thanks to my team. I know they're out watching. I did tell them I would wave out to them. And I know I saw that some of them were jumping on, some of them were watching TV. So thank you to them because they have done a fabulous job. I couldn't ask for a better team to work with.
I did see Rena Mello and Latoya Ogumbona.
Yeah, they are rock stars.
So thank you. Superintendent?
That concludes my report.
Right. All right, so it comes to me. So I told you guys a little bit about the tours that we did. I just also wanted to point out that I did reach out to, as it related to the tours, I reached out to the FinCom as well as the select board and asked them to send a representative from each one. My goal there was, as I said to them, not to surprise them with any asks afterwards, but really to help them understand in a better way what education looks like. You know, having all been through school ourselves, we all have our own visions of what school looks like on a day-to-day basis. And I think both Joan and John were equally surprised to see how complicated everything was. They asked some really great questions. And so I hope they report back to their, to their teams what this all looks like.
Hey, Amy, I want to say after that tour, Dave Grishman emailed me and said, I will do anything for the new school. He did. He just said, good. Oh my God, the state of that building. He couldn't believe it. So he was just like that, like, I will do anything.
Well, so one of the places that we went up to was in the kindergarten wing at Hadley. And, the superintendent was talking about how the teacher, there are so many things, there are so many moving parts here and so many still parts. So she has all of these desks set up that are all between, I don't even know what the distance was, but all appropriate length apart. So the little kids, so here they are, kindergartners, they're in their first year of school. They're sitting at desks, like they're not on the floor in a circle, in front of the smart board. And so you have these little kids who are like 20 feet away from the smart board, who are trying to look through other people's plastic cough screens. It looks like a whole bunch of salad bars at everybody's table. And they have their masks and it's a little bit darker so that they can see the board better. And on top of that, a lot of these things have been moved out of the classrooms. So the hallways have things that aren't normally there. And, obviously, Max and his team are working to make sure everything is fire compliant so that if, somebody comes in and audits there, that we're not in trouble. And, on top of the sort of what's happening just in the COVID world, the teacher was talking to us about how, every year her classroom floods and, it doesn't get water in it, it floods. So, it would seem like a comedy, except that it's not. It's really tragic. And I think Clark was particularly interesting for him to see how, I don't want to take words out of his mouth, but we were talking afterwards and he said, you're
talking about David, right? I thought you said John. David.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Sorry. Yes, David. One of the things that's happened again at Clark is that spaces, they're again learning in the hallways, which was something that we worked so hard to stop. But because of spaces, it, like every little spot is cordoned off, has some kind of, Mickey Mouse, divider so that there's some amount of privacy and kids are learning in the halls again. And it's just not okay. And, this is, I think, one of the hardest things that we talk about, and especially as the super and her team talks about 25 21st century learning. And it's like, well, what does that really mean? Part of it is that our spaces are too small and not up to code, not how a building would be built these days. And so it was, to see these kids eating lunch in, I wouldn't even call them classrooms, in the basement of the building. And then special ed happening sort of right there next to it is, it's hard to believe that this is Swampscott. It's hard to believe that this is Swampscott in the year 2021. So I'm glad to hear that it was impactful that way. Well, that wasn't the goal of the tours. I'm glad that he could see that. So anyway, that's the background of the tours. I wanted to close the loop with everybody on what's happening with foreign exchange and a particular request that was made of us. I can't recall, I know that Suzanne has been included on the email, but I don't recall whether John and Karen, if you were or not, but sort of the long and short of it was that after we created or, have been talking about policy, the next step became, how does this actually operationally happen? And in the meantime, Ms. Angelakis and Ms. Raymond did some due diligence and called some local districts who had similar exchange programs that had run through this particular program that didn't have great feedback. And so the decision was made to not move forward with this one particular student at this time, not because of him or his hosts, but because of the program. That program has since reached out to me and have asked to make a presentation to us, to which I said that we would be happy to entertain that next year, but that with all of the extra work that we're asking of the administration because of COVID, that this was not something further that I felt like we could put on their plates. And I hope you concur. But, the superintendent said we could absolutely override it. But I felt like the policy is one that we make and the procedure, the operations is theirs. And this really kind of came down to an operational decision. So out of respect to the superintendent, I made that, I sent that email out, and we'll be happy to make some introductions next year.
Yeah, I'd like to think we've put it on hold for right now. We're not, it's again, one of those things we'd like to give the time that it deserves. And I don't feel like I have that time right now, or my team has that time right now to make a rush decision with not doing our due diligence because there's a case. So we're parking it for now, but we are open to looking further into it, researching it, having a presentation. I'd love to be able to give it the time it deserves.
So, okay, so that was that ends that about the foreign students. And then last but not least is probably one of the bigger conversations that we had during the last tri-chair meeting, which was, I want to say 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. I think I was absent from our last school committee meeting. It's all blurring together now. Was a discussion with the town, both from a financial perspective as well as an organizational perspective, about a potential director of equity and inclusion. And that the town administrator has a job description that has been vetted and looks like a really great position, and probably something that the town could use. But we talked about all of the work that is being done by the superintendent and her team, and also how, while there would be some similarities between what the town might need, that educationally it probably means something else, and that we came to an agreement. I'm not sure whether or not how much the town side liked it, but I feel like it was, enough of an agreement that there wasn't room to make any errors with it, and that the district really had to do its own work, both through the work that the superintendent and her team are doing, and then potentially hiring a consultant to help us figure out what that needs, because this isn't a place we felt like we had the opportunity to just think that we made a good decision and move forward, but really needed to be more thoughtful about it. So we were further asked about it in the finance committee meeting. And I'm not sure how much, I don't know what was shared from the town side, because at the finance committee meeting, it was just the school and Ms. Seibert making her presentation. So they asked about it, and I also shared this information, and I'm sure that there'll be some more pushback on it, but I think that and the superintendent, if you want to chime in here, I think that the role is not necessarily the same.
It isn't, and we explained that with, so Dr. Bacon has a connection with a consultant that would come in, but we've even put a hold on that, because in this rides equity work that we're doing with our smaller team within the district, we've been assigned a coach who is asking that question that Ms. Raymond spoke to about the why. Why are we doing this work? And then the next step is to communicate that out. And so this coach is already coaching us through the steps to begin our journey to how to roll this out within the district. On top of that, we're doing the understandings with our own journey. And then Dr. Bacon has a consultant that would come in and further help us. So to fill a job position just because we want to fill it doesn't feel authentic right now. It feels like we have to continue our work, see where it gets us, and then define that position a little more clearly for the school department. So again, another thing that we've put on hold, but what I've learned in this position after 7 years is they used to say in ECLC, you have to go slow to go fast. You can't do things quickly just to do them without a thoughtful plan, or they end up backfiring. So that's the position we're taking.
I know that there was also a consultant who reached out to the school committee, and I asked Suzanne, I think, to just forward that to you, Superintendent. So I'm sure that, knowing Suzanne, that she did.
She did, and truthfully, it's probably buried here, but I do have that on my list of to-dos.
Well, I mean, to your point, we know that it's not that there's already a significant amount of work happening that has to come, the cart before the horse. So, but as long as it's there, and I think it's important to just keep talking about this so that it doesn't fall by the wayside. And I know that the work you're doing won't allow that to. I don't know if anybody had any questions for me about any of those topics.
Nope.
All right. Okay, so with that, we're going to move into our subcommittee, and we have you, Suzanne, to talk about the school building committee. And then I also have asked Mr. Giantis to just give a quick update about the finance committee meeting.
Sorry, I don't usually share the presentations from the school building committee, but we had a really exciting meeting last night, and I just want to show you guys a couple slides. We started every meeting with sort of an update of what's going on, and we have a lot going on right now because we have to submit our cost estimates and our schematic design to the MSBA very, very soon. April 28th, the schematic design and is going to the MSBA to just start the review process, and then May 5th, everything has to go to everything else has to go there. And then in June, we're gonna have a meeting, and I wanted to show you some design updates and get you guys really excited. This is the whole site, and I don't think I'm just gonna kind of just skip through a couple sites because of these site plans and just get to the first floor and show you guys just some really cool things. This is the best, most recent design of our twin school. So you see on the right side, you can see the upper school, and the red arrow on the right side points to the doorway for that school. And on the left side, you see the lower school entry. And for the upper school grades, they'll walk into the building and they'll go upstairs, and their classrooms are on the second and the third floor. And on the right side of and the left side of the building, when the lower school goes in, the kindergarten classrooms will be on the first floor there. They're all one-story classrooms, or one-story. The front of the building is one story right there where the kindergarten is, and you can see 9 classrooms. We have 9 classrooms for the kindergartners, and I'm going to show you the second floor, and you'll see that there's 7 classrooms for second, third, and fourth, but kindergarten and first both have 9 classrooms because we were able to. That was one of the district visions, was to have a sort of a lower student-teacher ratio in those younger grades. And then I also want to show you that the middle of the building here, where you walk in, everything in the middle of the building is all sort of common spaces. So the classroom wings can be locked down or locked out, and the whole middle of the building can be used. And on this floor, there's a lower school media center in the middle of the building in the front, and a cafeteria in the back. And I'm just gonna quickly go through. Every floor looks roughly the same. On this floor, the second floor, it's the first grade on the left side and the third grade on the right side. And the cafeteria, that's still like the top of the cafeteria, but you can see the media is 2 stories tall. So this is the upper school media here. And you can see 2 art rooms on the 2 sides here, and a lot of special ed in the middle. And then when you go up to the third floor, the same thing, the second grade's on one side, the fourth grade's on the other, all common area, lots of our special education programs. And we have this innovative area here with an outdoor terrace, and the gymnasiums in the back of the school here on the third floor next to the PT and the OT rooms. You can see these are neighborhoods for the 4th grade, and a neighborhood over here for the 2nd grade. They have resource rooms in them and all sorts of flex space and learning rooms. So this is really exciting because this is really close to what the school is going to look like. And then I want to show you this awesome view, an aerial view here down. You can see the lower school on one side and the upper school on the other. And I'm just going to show you this great view. So you can see it's designed to be sort of the forest side here and the ocean side here to kind of give both schools their own identity. This middle section here is the library, and up here is the maker space with the deck, and these are the windows that are daylighting the gym. So this is just really exciting because you can see it happening.
Yeah.
And just some more. And this is the back of the school where you can see it, the Ewing Woods in the back and all green. You can see that windows from the cafeteria. It's just, I think Lee said they were 17 feet windows. So it's going to be awesome. And this is just some other stuff we discussed. And I want to highlight this column right here. This is what we chose. This third column right here. Construction costs of 77 million, including an additional soft cost, which means sort of the furniture and technology and a few other things. And then our total product cost, we got it in at 96 million. We are really, really proud of ourselves. We have spent a lot of time going through all sorts of cost estimates and things in the building. And we have this building, and we didn't compromise one inch of educational programming to make this super efficient building. Yeah, that's so we're excited. And we also voted last night to do a very, very efficient HVAC system with geothermal. And we're going to have a very low EUI in this building and really great utilities and maintenance costs. And anyway, I'm just going to end it on this slide because
Yeah.
I just think this is so cool.
Suzanne,
Yeah.
that what was that, 96?
96 million.
That is before or after reimbursement from the
We
state?
have no idea what the MSBA is reimbursing us yet.
No,
So
I
that's
do
the-
know. No, I know that there is question of what. So my
yeah,
question,
so this is before reimbursement.
okay.
Yeah, so this is great because our estimates when we were doing this project, were in $110 million range. Our high end was $114 million. So we are so psyched that we have just thought really pragmatically and really smartly about what we're putting in this building and making really sustainable materials, but it's not top of the line craziness. It's really just durable and tested materials and we're going to have plenty of storage. We didn't skip on the things we know we need. We didn't. We said, if the linoleum isn't working in the foyer at the high school, we're not going to do linoleum in the foyer here. We learned that. I mean, I know Superintendent and Max went up to the high school and looked at cupboards and storage and some other things to talk about what they're using or what they need. And we didn't skimp on storage in here too, because, that's needed. And we looked at the amount of bathrooms we need and how we don't have enough for teachers or students right now. And this building is awesome.
But I would echo how proud I am with the work that we did, that this is a very sensible school. This is the choices that we made are long lasting, but they're not all flash and no substance. So I think, the work that we've spent to make this a very sensible, very affordable school versus those initial estimates, I'm proud of the work that we've done.
Yeah, this is like, ask questions, you guys. Pepper away.
Martha Raymond has her hand up, Suzanne.
Oh, I just was going to say, I'm obviously on the school building committee, and I was at last night's meeting and had some time to kind of process a little bit, like the meeting last night. And I wanted to say, like, what I thought about today was how thankful I am to the sustainability committee, because it made me think, like, how aligned they are with our educational vision, in that they care about the future, right? That's what we're, this is all about the future. And I was so touched by them saying how, what that piece, the climate piece, having a sustainable building, not having a massive carbon imprint on the world is kind of what I hadn't thought about it from that view, but that's kind of what we're thinking. Like, we want a great place, a great learning environment for our kids, right? And that's the future. Like, we're investing in our kids. I just
right.
thought,
And we think about these spaces, and you guys can see some of the skylights on the building. Some of those go all the way down to the first floor. I mean, this is about daylighting the whole building, right? And really bringing in the right amount of light to classrooms. And this whole, we have light shelves on over every window. There's like a shelf. So when the light bounces in, it kind of disperses around the room, right? So we just have this just awesome thought about what's the best spaces for kids to learn in. I mean, talk about perfect ventilation, and then daylighting, and the acoustics in this building will be great.
and
It's
safe.
It'll be safe, like
Healthy, optimal, learning environment. It was just really, it's just been I've been so happy to be part of it. And I think, the superintendent, what you said is so right on, that, it's not this over the top crazy building. It's what this district, it's the right size and the right fit at the right time for this district with an investment in the
it's
future.
really, I mean, just the fact that we're going to have two schools on one site, people are freaking out a little bit, thinking it's too big, but this is exactly what people want, two schools. And they are going to be two separate schools, two separate entrances, two separate administrations, but pragmatically, they're going to share the spaces that they can share, like the gyms and the cafeterias and the art and the music. It doesn't make sense for us to build buildings with all that, you know, double that space that we need in this town. And this is just really it is a very pragmatic building. It's really, it's
Karen
gonna be
has her
great.
hand up, Suzanne.
Oh, sorry, I just could keep talking and talking.
No, I don't know. I can't even be eloquent about this. I can't stand how amazing it is. And I love everything about it. And the work that you guys did is nuts. And I really, really, really want to see this. I'd want to walk in those doors someday, you know?
Right?
Yeah.
So I have to say, piggybacking off of the slides that Mrs. Raymond showed us earlier about the disparity between Clark and Hadley and Stanley in terms of our economically disadvantaged. And thinking about the fact that we don't offer the number of spaces to the METCO program that we would like to, because we're bursting at the seams in our elementary schools. I had the privilege of attending a forum that was hosted by American University where I think it was John King spoke, a former Secretary of Education, and he was talking about, so he was asked a question about equity and inclusion, and that's obviously a big topic for all of us. And, you know, he said very bluntly that this isn't something, you know, that this is all about location, and like in real estate. And so the idea that we have this opportunity to treat our really small town, you know, less than 3 square miles with equity, but also by splitting this into 2 schools, which was something that I had never imagined, I think is really exciting. And to see those classrooms, to see that solve the needs of having more kindergarten classrooms, to think about the possibility that a kid who lives 2 miles from where my kids live, you know, be equals, is I think that goes beyond what I have dreamt about in terms of a new school. You know, I think it's obvious, like to see those things that are, you know, like, you know, new air handling and better lighting and bathrooms that aren't 50 years old. Those are kind of
10 years old.
Yeah. Those are sort of like the easy wins, but when I think about it more, I don't know what the word is. When I think about it more holistically and about to Ms. Raymond's point about the idea of, you know, thinking about the future and the, you know, how things dovetail in, I just think that there's so much opportunity here for the town to really be the town that it wants to be through a building, which sounds corny, but
it really doesn't, Amy. And it's like not just the students either. Like imagine how awesome it's going to be to teach in this building, to have like all your co-teachers in the same neighborhood as you, and these classrooms are going to have doors between the classrooms, right? So teachers can leave it open and be like, watch my class when we go to the bathroom, like in the old, like just like they're just going to be able to like work together, and they're going to be able to have all these flex spaces in front of their classrooms where they can mix and match their classes. And we're going to have 7 teachers in 1 grade level, so we'll be able to balance class sizes, boys and girls, learning styles, teaching styles in so many ways we don't do. Even programs that we've tried to start in this district, like looping and multi-age classrooms, that haven't been possible because we've only had 2 classes a grade level per school or something, are going to be able to be possible in this building. Like that stuff is just like, for so long we've been okay with what we have, and now to see that this potential is so close, it's like,
Yep.
I completely forgot about the looping and
Yeah.
how exciting that would be, because I know that worked for a minute at Hadley.
Yeah, and these classrooms, I mean, having your special education classrooms integrated in your grade level neighborhoods and therapy classes, everything sort of closer and more accessible to your classroom is huge. You know, the makerspace is going to be just awesome. It's the special ed programs that, you know, Mrs. Raymond was so hell bent on putting them on the 3rd floor near the gym and near the outdoor space. So those kids get to utilize all these services that really easily and really conveniently. You know, it's just like, it's just going to be great. and even though it's not perfect, we're making it as perfect as we can. So I'm psyched to share this with you guys. I think it's just like, I'm psyched it's coming in at 96 million right now, which is huge. I mean, we're building a school and it's going to be great, and we're doing it for the average price of a school. You know, we're not doing anything crazy. It's all good.
Can I ask you, Suzanne, when you say that the school building committee had a meeting, do you guys still have high attendance in terms of what is it, like the 20, 25 people who are on that committee?
We had everyone but one person last night. So that was pretty great. We don't have a lot of public. We don't have a lot of public coming to our meeting. They're mostly people that live in the neighborhood that aren't so thrilled with this building. Our community forums seem to get, 100 people or so. We haven't done a community forum in a while. We'll do one soon as this goes to the MSBA, I think. But now our mission is to turn this over to a ballot committee, right? To try to really talk about the benefits of the school and get a vote passed in the fall. So our design work as a school building committee is done mostly. There's a few things here and there, so that's exciting.
Well, I'm glad we nominated you to take on that, to be our representative there.
I want to one more huge shout out. This one goes to Gino Cresta because as part of a lot of our school building discussions, we've talked so much about traffic and parking and traffic issues, and a lot of issues down Forest Ave with the middle school. And we've been talking so much about how we can coordinate these two schools, drop off and pickups and parking and sort of the traffic nightmare that people are so afraid of. And or that they already kind of see at the middle school. And our traffic consultant, she's awesome. She's had so many ideas, and we met with her last week. I mean, we've been talking to her on and off, and Mr. Kalishman has been in the discussions because she had ideas about things we could do at the middle school. And we had a meeting last week, and Mr. Cresta had already talked to the neighbors in front of the middle school, and he was ready to start building a sidewalk on the opposite side of the street than the middle school. Finally.
Well, it started.
Huh?
It started.
It started today. He told us it was going to start tomorrow, but he started it today because the weather was nice, and we're going to try to get it up and running and really troubleshoot some of the changing the crosswalk there, changing the traffic pattern a little bit, and trying to discourage parkers, encourage people to come off site to pick up their kids, like that lower lot. Just make some changes, and we listen to the town, and we have to make this work. We have to make the parking and the traffic and everything work around these sites. So we're starting already, and this school isn't going to be built until 2024, and we're starting. So
and Mr. Kalishman in his morning announcements has been reminding students that it's a 3 square mile town. They can certainly walk and bike to school. So he's already started to push that.
Yeah.
He said, I know there's traffic. It's your job to be here at 8 o'clock. You also have a choice of walking and biking. So please know that.
For some reason, I don't think my kid has heard that announcement.
Well, you should kick your kid out of the house. Your kid should be walking to the middle school. Are you kidding me?
Yes, she should.
Anyway, this is just exciting. I'm happy to share it with you guys.
Right.
Love it.
I'll turn it over to you, John.
Thanks, Amy. And I think you touched a little bit on that meeting. It was last Wednesday, April 7th. And you and I attended for the school committee, and it was largely the Martha Seibert show, and Martha did a great job. It was I'd say no surprises. It was largely tracked mostly to the presentation that Ms. Seibert had presented to our committee. couple updates just on numbers that Ms. Seibert had put in there. There were a number of questions from the finance folks. I think they were very similar to the questions that we asked, frankly, just, on some of the differences and, why numbers were appearing. I think they asked the same question about the facilities, that amount, to talk about that a little bit, same question we had. So again, I think at the end of the day, it was really no surprises. And Amy, I don't know if you want to add anything beyond that.
I don't think so. Did you guys, I know that you guys were, Susie, and you were probably meetinged out, and I don't know, Karen, if you were able to attend, but I don't know if you guys had any questions.
I don't. You gave me a little bit of a brief, but I wasn't able to be there.
Yeah, I can't even remember any longer. Okay.
Yeah, I also talked to Martha Seibert like a couple days later, so yeah.
Oh, I see Ms. Seibert with her hand raised.
Yeah, I would just like to add that, we're always appreciative to be invited to the Finance Committee to talk about our budget and to explain it so that they're able to really support it and endorse it to town meeting. So it was a good opportunity, and I thought it was some very thoughtful questions, very similar to what the committee had asked, but some thoughtful questions and some good dialogue. So we appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, I have to say I appreciated the questions that they asked. They were very curious, but careful about some of the questions, specifically as it related to special education. But, Martha, Raymond, I think you certainly laid the groundwork for them last year. I'll never forget your answers last year. When asked about what you would do if you came in under budget. To which you said, we won't ever. So, all right. So with that, we'll move into the consent agenda, which is designed to expedite the handling of routine and miscellaneous business of the district. The school committee can adopt the entire consent agenda with one motion at the request of any member. Any items can be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda for discussion. We have 3 things tonight. Closer so I can read. We have our regular session minutes from March 24th. We have a donation from Brent Mills Photo and Video to the high school art. And we have warrant number 2139 and 2141. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussions? We have, just to read it out loud, the gift from Brent Mills Photo and Video, which is a small business, donated $1,735 of photo equipment, lights, backdrops, equipment, and cases for storage. Some all relatively good condition and some unused equipment. So a nice gift to our art teacher, Ryan Townsend of the high school.
Thank you.
So thank you to Brent Mills. Any questions or discussion? Okay, then a roll call vote for approval. Suzanne?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
And I am a yes. So that is unanimously approved. And it is 8:50. So I will allow public comment. So if anybody has.
Yep.
Okay. So we'll limit it to 2 minutes per person. And I see
Keiko has her hand up.
Keiko with her hand up. So you can, let me see.
Just
if
unmute it.
you're on mute, you should be able to speak.
Awesome. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I want to thank my fellow parents and community members who have volunteered to ensure our elementary students can continue to learn in person, and I am ecstatic to hear that all volunteer shifts are fully covered. I just want to add to Chair O'Connor's update about her Monday site visit to Hadley with Mr. Giantis to.
Oh,
You're breaking up.
sorry, Keiko, can you unmute?
Wait, there we go.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries.
You said I cut you off at you wanted about the Monday visit.
Got it. Monday site visit to Hadley with Mr. Giantis to share that while on that tour, Ms. O'Connor reached out to me. I'm at Hadley on Mondays and Fridays now covering lunch. Ms. O'Connor pulled me aside and asked me.
Oh,
What are you doing?
I don't know.
Okay. Ms. O'Connor pulled me aside and asked me to reach out to my fellow Stanley PTO parents because she expressed to me, and I'm paraphrasing here, that we need more Stanley volunteers in other buildings. Specifically, she shared her belief that Stanley families are reluctant to volunteer in buildings other than their own because it was, in her words, a real problem, and one that she attributed to an assumed socioeconomic privilege at Stanley, not shared by Hadley or Clark. I couldn't fully respond at the time as I had 15 first graders who needed my attention. And I offer my response publicly tonight in lieu of private direct communication with the chair as our Stanley PTO board was invoked in this exchange. And to be clear, this is my choice to speak and I was not asked to do so by my board colleagues. I am deeply disappointed and quite frankly offended by the chair's insinuation that Stanley families are too good to volunteer their time outside of our Stanley school community. I initially hesitated to share her comments with them, knowing how hurtful those words would be to my fellow parent volunteers who graciously and generously give their time. Ultimately, I did share her comments, and while I speak for myself tonight, please know that the Stanley PTO board shares in my hurt and disappointment. The irony of her comments is not lost on me as a Stanley parent volunteering at Hadley. I would have loved a Stanley assignment, but I signed up to help wherever needed. And let me be clear, my wanting a Stanley volunteer assignment reflects a personal desire for convenience and a bias and love for my child. My personal preference is not representative of the chair's erroneous assumption that Stanley families are biased against other schools because of presumed privilege. This is an example of why words matter, particularly when coming from our community leaders. This is about intent versus impact. And while the chair's intent to solicit more volunteers is noble, the impact of the implications of her words are anything but. Her passing comments to me indicate several misguided assumptions. First, that Hadley and Clark families are somehow less capable of volunteering. Second, that Stanley families are less willing. And finally, that a single school community with presumed privilege is somehow more obligated to fulfill a need across all schools. I feel that the chair's comments were harmful and divisive, and the framing of her request inappropriate. Her words cast broad judgment that neither advance nor inspire goodwill among already exhausted parents stretched to their breaking points over the last 13 months. What is more productive and inspiring is recognizing and expressing gratitude for those who are able to volunteer, just as Superintendent Angelakis did at the top of tonight's meeting. Instead, our chair chose in that moment, however discreetly or personally to me, to casually chastise those who don't or can't volunteer as some kind of relational recruitment tactic. I believe Chair O'Connor owes the collective school parent community a public apology for the needless hurt caused by her words among our PTO board, for unfairly judging our school community, and for shaming families by implication when we're all just trying to do the best that we can. Thank you.
I have to say, whereas I don't normally respond to public comment, I am completely flummoxed by your interpretation of my request for more volunteers. What you have described couldn't come close to the conversation where I said there is generally a glut of volunteers at Stanley and not so much at the other two schools. And following up on Ms. Raymond's some of the discussions that I'm completely flummoxed, and I have to say this could not in any way, I am not sure how you have jumped to the conclusion that you have, but if you feel continually wronged by this, I encourage you to reach out to our Vice Chair, Ms. Wright, because it is absolutely clear that the things that I have said to you have been completely misinterpreted. If you are interested in an actual discussion rather than just some grandstanding. So these comments are completely off base.
I agree. I'm sorry that happened, Amy, honestly.
Honestly, it's quite fine. I understand. And as we've talked about as a school committee, we have faced criticism over the years, and I'm okay with that. But there is like a processing disorder here, because what I said to you about helping to recruit volunteers from a resource that is traditionally rich in volunteers, not in dollars, to however you interpret it is wildly off base. So that's all I have to say about that. Is there anybody else who'd like to raise a hand for public comment?
I do not
All
see
right.
anyone.
So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right, roll call vote. Ms. Wright,
Yep.
John Giantis,
Yes.
Erin Marshall,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. It is 8:56 and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys.
Night.
Suzanne, I don't think I ever hit record. Did you?
Nope, but Joe takes care of it, I think.
Okay.
I have a backup. I forgot to remind you guys. Sorry.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
I'm sorry
sorry.
about that, Joe.
I literally just looked.
I just realized it. All right, let me end the streams here. We're still on.
Still on.